imaginary friends, and welcome back to another episode. We are again going to do some prompts because you guys liked it, and we liked it a lot. You know the rules. We're going to get 3 prompts each, and with those prompts, we are going to tell a story on the spot. It's live storytelling in a non-live video. But anyway, so we are going to do Daniel first. Daniel, I'm going to do this first. So,
okay.
I'm going to give you your 3 prompts, and then you're going to tell us the story. Okay, so your first one is a well.
Okay.
Your next one is lucky. And your last one is...
That's too easy.
Princess.
Seriously?
Yes, these
That's
are random.
my combination?
These are random.
Wow.
I have randomized them. It's from the story of Once Upon a Time. I shuffle them, and this is what came out. A well,
Yeah.
All right.
lucky,
Princess. And princess.
Go.
Okay, I've got something. I don't know where it's going to go. We'll find out.
Sounds
Great.
Okay. Since apparently, as I've just found out, I cannot name the princess Lucky, this is a story about a girl named, let's say, Rosie. And Rosie was not a princess, but her father always told her that she was one. Every day when she would go outside and do some chores, because that's what peasants have to do, people. She'd get properly sunburnt, come inside properly exhausted, and be properly hankering after, because hankering is a peasant word too, after some really delicious food, and maybe just a little bit of, just a taste of dessert. Her father would say, "No, my princess, but I'm so proud of you for the work you've done today." And then go to bed, because that's how quick dinner was, because that's how little it was. They'd wake up in the morning. He'd say, "Good morning, princess. It's so lovely to see you." And she'd say, "Please, can I sleep another minute?" And he'd say, "Okay, just no, you can't sleep one more minute. We got to get up." Because if we don't, we need to be out in those fields before the Lord comes by and sees us working and that we're all there. So they go back out in the fields. They're working. And Rosie pricks her finger after. Was I using present tense? I don't even remember. I'm going to go with present tense right now.
You're good.
Okay.
This is all
Rosie
live.
pricks.
It doesn't matter.
Okay. Rosie pricks her fingers on the plants that they're picking. Because the technology is poor enough that they have to pick things with their fingers. She wants to go in the house and deal with it. And her father says, "No, princess, I'm sorry, you can't, because we have to stay out here and keep working. But, nope, you can't have a minute, because the Lord's coming by right now. He needs to see you working." So she properly goes on working, while still bleeding, picking the plants. Whether that's healthy or not, for those who will consume said plants, I'm not sure. I'll let you decide. However, upon finishing that day and going to bed, the same thing happened, except that Rosie was very much in pain still. Her fingers had not healed properly. In fact, they had only gotten worse. So the next morning when she woke up and father said, "It's time to wake up, Rosie, my princess. We have to go outside and work." She said, "Please, father, I need to heal. I need to go outside after I heal, not right now, because if I go outside now, isn't it going to get even worse?" And he said, "I don't know, princess, but we have to wait. You know what? Let's let you have a minute." And there was a knock on their door. After about 3/4 of a minute, the foreman, of course, coming by to say, "Why aren't you guys in the field yet?" "Sorry, I was giving my princess a minute." "That's not a princess, that's your daughter." Rosie heard that, of course, and immediately recognized what she had already felt in her heart, because clearly a princess would not be told no on all of these things. She was not, in fact, a princess. After about a week, her fingers were stained and gorged. They were not doing well. There was a bacteria that had set in. She was having quite a bit of difficulty picking, but going on doing it, of course. She heard about a well, and it was told that those who made a wish at this well would have much better luck. She needed some luck right now, because an apothecary was not something that her family could afford, and nor was the time to go see the apothecary. So, on the next day off, instead of going to the apothecary and not being able to pay, she made the long journey to that next town where there was a well, just outside the town. Having arrived at the well, she realized that there was a very, very long queue for that well. And she would have to wait at the end of it, of course, because that's what people do. Seriously, when you mob up against things to try to get there first, that's not cool. We're all peasants here. Don't mob. Get in line. Anyway, so Princess Rosie, if you will, got in line, got in the queue, and waited her turn. However, her turn had not yet come when the sun set, and the day off was going to end, and she was not going to have slept. So she had a choice to make. Am I going to stay here and lose a lot of sleep and then get my turn at the well? Or am I going to go home and get some rest and maybe feel slightly better about getting up in the morning? She stayed! You know she did. You know she stayed. She did. She got there. She got to the well just about the middle of the night. Probably 3 a.m., but they don't have clocks, so I don't know. But it's, for you and I, it was 3 a.m. So Rosie gets her chance at the well. She looks down inside, sees absolutely no water, and is wondering how on earth this well is going to confer luck on her. She leans over, and the sores in her fingers, warning to those who are easily overcome by things that are gross or ouchy, open up. The sores in her fingers open up, and she bleeds a lot into the well. Enough that the people in line behind her kind of start to shuffle and then look around, and then some of them leave because they don't really want to use the well tonight. And there aren't that many behind her anyway. So eventually, after a few minutes, she's alone at the well, bleeding into it. And she makes her wish, and she makes it with many tears, fairly dry ones, because of course she's pretty dehydrated. And having made that wish, she makes the journey home, and she arrives a few minutes late, not just 1 minute. So she arrives late. Everybody's already working in the fields. Her father is distraught, but cannot afford to go and look for her. Plus, he kind of knows where she went anyway. So he's trying to work on that end of the field closer to where she's coming from so that he can be first to receive her. And when she arrives, he says, "Oh, my princess, you're not doing well at all, are you?" Seeing that she is barely huffing it into the field, like she's slogging, like her feet are barely moving. And I would have changed the verbs if I were actually writing this down. Those were not great choices. And she makes it to her father. They embrace. They take that time that they do not have, of course. The people around them don't stop them. They don't shout, "Hey, these people are hugging instead of working." But that doesn't mean no one is. For sure enough, the overseer comes riding by, and he sees them not working, talking, embracing, and tells them to get back to work in the most violent manner possible. Both of them come out of the experience with a lot of bruises and welts that they did not previously have. Obviously, in Rosie's case, this means she's going to have a lot of trouble working that day. She has had no sleep. She is now bleeding in extra places. And she's had very little nutrition as well because she had no breakfast. So here she is working in the fields. The sun seems hotter than ever. Her father is constantly working next to her saying, "Keep going, princess. You're doing a wonderful job." And at the end of the day, when it's time to go in, she doesn't think she can move. She tries to walk into the house. She can't seem to make it. The overseer doesn't care because the work's been done. He's like, "Okay, whatever. I'm going to leave. You take your time. Lose your sleep, lose your dinner, whatever." And she's trying to get her feet to move, and they won't move. And then her father picks her up and carries her the rest of the way into the house. And he opens the door and says, "I'm sorry, princess. We don't have enough to eat today. But I did save part of my lunch for you. And so it's pretty gross. It's basically gruel, and it's a few bites. She eats it. He lays her down in bed. And it seems like the second she went to sleep, somebody's trying to wake her up. This is kind of how it feels a lot of days, right? Please, can I just have one more minute? No, you don't understand. You need to wake up now. You can't have another minute. Why? Is the overseer coming? No. You need to wake up right now. So she manages to claw her eyes open, it feels like, and sit up with what it feels like a rocks in her belly, because it's that hard to sit up. And an enormous stream of flowers seems to be flowing forth from all of her hands. All of her hands. All 50 of them. How many hands does she have? All of her fingers is, I think, where I meant to go with that. She goes out to work, or tries to, but they have to leave the door open for so long because as she walks, the streams of flowers just keep coming and they're growing as they speak. And they're in time because it was still almost the middle of the night when they woke up because he realized, oh wow, she's growing flowers and they're growing over my face, and I woke up and there she is. Anyway, they get out to the field and she can't pick anything, but the overseer comes by and sees it and is like, well, you know what? I hate you because you're a peasant, but I'm going to go tell the Lord about this, and maybe, I don't know, well, I'll be right back. He goes and tells the Lord, and the Lord goes and gets his lady. Wow, why was it that hard to think of that? His lady, because I was thinking princess, and they come out to see her, and she asks if she can have some of those flowers, and Rosie's like, yeah, I think so. I don't know if it's going to hurt. And she starts clipping off some flowers, and yeah, it totally hurts. It hurts every time her flowers get clipped off her fingers. And the lady's like, okay, thanks, I enjoyed them, and then they weave them into something. And the flowers never wilt, by the way. They're perfect. Yeah, and so the word gets around until an actual princess visits the fields and wants to meet this girl with the flower hands. Unfortunately, when the actual princess arrives, Rosie is basically on her deathbed because she never gets enough nutrition or enough sleep, and then people keep cutting her finger flowers. And the princess says, effectually, I really, really, really like these flowers. If you die, will they stop growing? And Rosie says, I don't know. I've never been dead. Probably, they call an apothecary. The princess is like, okay, I'll pay the apothecary to come. And the apothecary's like, I don't know if they'll keep, honestly, nails and hair seem to keep growing for a while after we're dead. So maybe, but probably best to keep her alive. So then the princess pays for the apothecary to keep Rosie alive. And then Rosie ends up going to live in the royal palace so that she can provide flowers for everyone, and they maintain her health, at least in rudimentary degree. And she doesn't have to go out in the fields anymore. And she feels like a princess, even though she's not an actual princess. And somehow she withstood the pain of all those years long enough because her father kept calling her a princess and treating her like one as much as he could under the circumstances, which is not the same circumstances that an actual princess has to encounter. So that her pain could finally be nice for other people who probably didn't need it as much as people like Rosie did. I'm pretty sure their neighbors could have probably could have enjoyed the flowers a bit more, probably needed it more, but oh well, the flowers ended up in the princess's palace. The end.
Yeah, nails and hair, they typically grow after you die, but we should probably keep her alive. That was Daniel. Oh, wow. Okay. That's story one. All right, Timothy, are you ready for your three?
Yes. Bring it on.
All right. Your first one is tower. Your next one is sleeping. And your last one is wise.
Wise. Ooh.
Tower, sleeping, wise.
I see that wise beard stroking.
Okay. Once upon a time, there was a princess. Like most princesses, she was cursed.
It's flowers for fingers.
She was cursed with a deep sleep, and she was locked away in a tower until someone could figure out how to break into it. Many princes tried and failed, and one particular prince, who had been kicked out of his own kingdom because of a revolution, had wandered accidentally into the region where the tower stood. He didn't know what to do. His only occupation previously had been a prince. So he consulted a wise woman, and she advised him to become a thief. He thought this peculiar, not the type of calling that princes typically go into. But she seemed particularly wise, so he chose to follow her advice. In time, he became an expert lockpick. As time went on, and more princes tried to find their way into the tower, another prince decided to consult the wise woman as to how to get into the tower. The wise woman did not particularly like this prince. He was rather arrogant and puffed up and conceited. So she advised him to hire a lockpick. Unknown to the puffed up, arrogant prince, the chief lockpick in the area happened to be an ex-prince, whom he hired to pick the lock of the tower. The lockpick proceeded to pull out all of his tools and go to work on the lock. It was a particularly tricky lock, but at last he managed to break in. Now the prince, the puffed up, arrogant prince, thought that this meant he won the princess's hand. But as it turned out, he was the second prince in the tower. And so when the princess woke up, she was confronted by two princes, one who was a lockpick and one who was rather puffed up. And she didn't know what to do, because the spell had clearly spelled out that there would be one prince, and now there were two gentlemen in her tower, and she was rather confused what to do. So she went to consult the wise woman. The wise woman pointed out to her that the lockpick was in fact a prince, and had in fact been the one to liberate her from the spell. And he was rather nicer than the arrogant, puffed-up prince, so the princess chose him instead. And as he was married to the princess, he once again became a prince and put his lockpicking behind him for good. The end.
I mean,
Very good. Timothy, very good. I love it. Yet again, Timothy shows his value at writing fairy tales off the cuff. I love
that
it.
was so much more cohesive. So much more logical.
Okay, it's my turn. Here we go. Here are my 3 items.
All right.
I get a gift, a palace, and mischief making.
Ooh.
That could be lots of things.
Ooh.
Making mischief.
That gives a lot of scope.
Once upon a time, there was a princess. I'm just kidding. I'm not going that way. But once upon a time, in this kingdom, there were a group of orphaned kids. The orphanage was a terrible place. So they escaped and made their own group, and they would go through the kingdom avoiding the orphans and the police and whatever.
Were they making mischief? I'm sorry, no questions.
Lots of mischief.
Okay.
One of their favorite things to do, besides pickpocketing and stealing food, was making mischief. They loved playing tricks on the kingsmen, the soldiers, the whoever was in charge. They would do everything. They would take cow poop and smear the streets so that when the soldiers were marching in form, they would slip and fall at the exact right spot, and they would slide down the hill, and then their suits would all be pooped. And kids didn't care. They had stuff all over them all the time, so they loved it. That was one thing. And then they would trim the trees so that when the soldiers would walk by and their helmets would just touch it, then the branches would fall on them, or the leaves or whatever. And they just loved making mischief. They had a leader, and his name was, I want to say Oliver, but I'm not going to.
Okay.
I can't think of a name. Let's say his name was Jonathan. And this Jonathan was
Not Jonathan.
Jonathan was a great mischief maker. He came up with all the ideas, and not only did he come up with the ideas, he told the other kids, the other orphans, how to do them. Well, one day, he was trying to come up with this new trick, this new mischief, And so he went into the palace courtyard and started breaking into the palace just to find the right outfit so that he could put all the right outfits on all of his friends, and then they could pretend like they can all come in and then make mischief inside the palace.
Okay.
Well, while he was rummaging through some of the clothing and all the rooms and stuff, the door creaked open, and who walked through but a beautiful young princess about the same age as him. "What are you doing?" she asked. Was his answer. It's funny because all of the orphans that were in his group were all boys. So he had actually never spoken to a girl before. So his first words to a girl were, which were in fact not really words, but you know. And so she walked by and she said, "Don't be afraid. I don't care. I just want to know what you're doing. We have plenty of food. We have plenty of clothes. I just want to know if you're stealing from us, even though we give we give a lot of money and food to the orphanage, which I'm sure you're from." "No, I'm not," he said, which were his real first words to her. Of course, combative, you know. And so she said, "Oh, really? Then why do you smell like poop and look like trash?" "I don't look like trash," she said. "Yeah, you do." And in fact, he had one of the jackets over him that he was going to use later, but underneath she could see all the stuff. And the jacket didn't really fit him. It was too big, whatever. It was terrible. It's all bad. Poor jacket is dirty. Now the jacket is dirty. It is his jacket from now on. And so they started having a conversation. And he started telling her about how he lived on the streets and he had no authority and nobody was in charge of him and she said, "How's that working out for you?" And he really thought about it. He thought about it, but his answer was, "It's fine, it's great. What do you think?" And she said, "Well, I think it looks like it's doing pretty badly. I think that maybe if you go back to the orphanage, it will be better for you." "Pfft, what do you know? You're just a stupid girl princess." She said, "Well, a stupid girl princess who has food and clothing whenever I want." And so they had an argument, both of them, just bashing, like complete opposites, you know. And then, as they were continuing the conversation, the marching footsteps started coming and he had to leave. So he checked out. He ran out and he kept the jacket on. He returned to all of his group, his gang, and they were all shocked. "Oh, where'd you get the jacket? Oh my gosh. How'd you do it?" And he told them all about the palace and how he fought the princess and he beat her with his words and she was a stupid girl and da 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 da. But when he went to sleep that night, all he could think about was how pretty and how smart she was and how he started thinking about maybe it would be great to go back to the orphanage just to see her drop off some food. But he couldn't tell his gang that. So he came up with a plan. The next day, he said, "Hey guys, I think what we should do, we should go back to the orphanage to go and do tricks on the people who are running the orphanage and all the other orphans. They're not getting any fun, so we should go in, we should teach them, we should do that." And after a while, these boys were not very smart. After a while, they started to listen to him and were convinced, "Yeah, we're going to totally go in there and teach all the other kids how to do the stuff and, trick all the leaders of the orphanage." And so they went there and the whole time he's thinking, "Oh, the princess is going to come." And she didn't come. A day went by, 2 days, a week went by.
They stayed there?
Princess. They were staying in the orphanage.
Okay.
And more and more he was getting used to the food that he didn't have to steal, and the soldiers weren't chasing him down anymore. He wasn't thrown into prison or anything. And it's not ideal to have somebody over you telling you what to do, but it kind of was nice that he wasn't getting in so much trouble. So she didn't come back. She didn't come to the orphanage. He kept the jacket, but she hadn't come to the orphanage. He swore it off if she doesn't come tomorrow, I'm leaving. I'm taking my gang with me. I'm going to take as many kids with me. I'm going to tear this place apart. Guess what? She came that next day. And he was in awe. And the princess was walking through, and they're handing out food and whatever. You know, it's like a photo op with before photos, you know, and they just kind of, you know, she's walking through it. It looked
Just
good
an
for
op.
the... Yes, it looked just an op. It looked good for the royal family, let's just say that. And he got up, and he had his jacket on, and she came right up to him, and she said, well, if it isn't little Jonathan, I'm not. He just, again, his first words to her again was,
And I'm not. Both of which he said
I'm
before.
not. And she said, I'm going to spend some time with you today. And so as the food was handed out and everything, they sat down and they talked. And she said, how do you like it here? And he said, oh, it's fine. It's all right. Because he wanted to be truthful with her now, you know? Because he was so happy to see her again. He didn't want anybody to know, but he did. And she said, I like your jacket. It's messy, but I really like your jacket. Oh, thanks. She said, I could have told the guards to go after you because they saw you with the jacket. But I told them that it was a gift from me. Haha, gift. I told them that it was a gift from me and to leave you alone. And he said, oh, well, all right. See you later then. And and she left.
Too real.
And from that day forward, he thought about her whenever he had the jacket on. And anytime that she came, she always looked for the jacket to go see Jonathan. And they were quick friends after that. And Jonathan started slowly, very, very slowly, to change his ways. And that's the end. I don't know. Maybe. That's good. I think that's a good ending. I don't know. What do you think, guys?
Always end
what
with
do you think?
maybe. I don't
Maybe.
know.
I don't know. Because I could go on, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to go on anymore. I think that is good. They ended as friends, and he had a jacket and a place to be.
And he
started
smelled
feeling,
slightly less like poop now and then?
Slightly less.
Okay. Okay. I really
What
want
did
that
you
for
guys-
I mean, the jacket had to smell like poop, right?
The
'Cause
jacket
he put it
did at
on
that
before
point.
he went back
It
to the
did.
orphanage and washed.
She probably should have said something about it smelling like poop, but I don't know. Well, what did you guys think? Was this good? Have you guys ever done prompt stories before? If you haven't, you should definitely try it. It's fun. It's difficult for most of us. Timothy, not so much. But for us, it's very difficult, and it's a lot of fun. So, hey, make sure you like, subscribe, share this with other people. Give us a comment, a little laugh. What story did you like the best? What aspect of the stories did you like? What cards would you like to see? And if you'd like to see us play this again. And yeah, make sure that you come back. We have other stories that we've actually taken time to write. They should be somewhere around us here, either next to me or Daniel or Timothy. I don't know. It's next to one of us. And you should check them out because those ones are a little bit better than these off-the-cuff ones that are filmed live. So check them out. Enjoy
hope.
them. And yes, and I hope I hope
hope they
to
are.
see
I don't
you
know.
again next time. Peace.